When I walked in, it was evident that Emily was distressed. The narrator began. Hands clasped, she stood in the living room, shifting nervously from foot to foot. In our 24 years of marriage, I'd seen her like this often enough to know something was amiss. Typically, Emily, a dentist, arrived home half an hour before me, using the time to start dinner and change clothes. But today, she was still in her work attire, and no enticing aromas wafted from the kitchen. Clearly something was wrong. "Alex, we need to talk," she declared resolutely. Apprehensive, I sat down and calmly replied, "Of course, dear." She abruptly took the initiative. "I don't know how to tell you this, Alex, so I'll just say it. I want a separation, and possibly a divorce," she stated with surprising boldness. "I think a temporary break would be best, but I want it to be clear that it could lead to divorce later." "All right, dear," I responded calmly. "I'll move out immediately." As I stood and headed toward the bedroom, I noticed Emily's jaw drop. She had likely anticipated a lengthy discussion, perhaps even some questions, but one of the hallmarks of our marriage was doing the unexpected. She was predictable, I was not. If my calm acceptance surprised her, my swift return to the living room with 2 large, already packed suitcases practically knocked her off her feet. I set the luggage by the door, pulled a slip of paper from my pocket, and handed it to Emily. "This is my new address and phone number. You can still reach me on my cell. I only have one condition for this separation. If you sleep with someone else, we divorce immediately. If this is just for you to find yourself, we can reconcile when you've sorted things out. But I won't be strung along while you decide if you want me back." Before she could respond, I picked up my phone and dialed a number. "Hi, Rebecca, it's Alex. What do you think about getting together Friday evening? Dinner?" "Alex, Rebecca here. I'd love to." With enormous pleasure, though I might forget to wear anything under. Smiling, I hung up. Picking up my suitcases, I calmly walked to my car, leaving Emily stunned and speechless. Rebecca and I enjoyed a pleasant steak dinner, nothing fancy. And then we went back to my apartment. As Rebecca was guiding me towards my third peak of bliss in her embrace, the phone by the bed rang. Rebecca answered with an elegant, "Hello." "Oh, hi Emily. Alex is a little tied up right now, but I can rush him for you. Give him 30 minutes, just in case the train is a bit delayed." Rebecca hung up and returned to our activity with renewed vigor. I held her tight as she led me where I needed to be, and this time I joined her in the culmination. Moments later, as my heartbeat returned to normal and Rebecca moved away, I reached for the phone and dialed the number that, just hours ago, had been mine. "Hello, Emily," she practically shrieked, answering before the phone could even ring. "Is that you, Alex?" "Yes. It's me, Emily. Sorry I couldn't answer when you called, but I'm calling back now that I'm free," I replied with a sly grin. "What the hell is going on, Alex?" Emily demanded. "You already had a place to stay and your bags packed before I even said I wanted a separation. And then I call your number, and this woman answers, practically admitting she's with you right now. Let's just say I didn't want to be caught off guard when you said you wanted a separation." Being caught off guard for a few minutes was much more pleasurable, I responded. "And no, Rebecca isn't stupid, at least I don't think so. But if it's important to you, I can ask her," I said, grinning and giving Rebecca a playful slap on the thigh. "You bastard," Emily spat. "You said we wouldn't sleep with anyone else while we were separated." "That was just a test run," I retorted. "I never said anything about me." "You're incredible, Emily. Why do you think you can play by different rules? If you can sleep with anyone, then so can I." "Of course you can, Emily, but be warned that will lead to a divorce." "I will not be cuckolded," I stated firmly. "Then maybe we should just get divorced right now, since you already slept with her," Emily asked, almost challenging me. "Maybe we should file for divorce Monday morning. That seems fair, doesn't it?" "Not really, Emily. You decided we needed to separate, which meant I was deprived of a partner against my will. You did that unilaterally. That's a big difference. Plus, I made it clear I would file for divorce if you slept with someone else. You never said the same about me. But if you want a divorce, go ahead and file. You have every right. But I'm not sure you want a divorce. I just wanted a temporary separation to think about things," Emily said, her voice softening. "Then no problem. You're separated. You got what you wanted," I replied. "This isn't fair," Emily complained. "I reiterate, I didn't ask for this separation. I didn't want it. I wanted my wife and my life the way it was. You took that away from me. I'm not going without love just because you have something on your mind." But if it makes you feel any better, you can come over 3 or 4 times a week, and I will be faithful to you during those times. And by the way, I don't sleep with every woman I know." "What kind of separation is this, Alex?" Emily asked. "I've never heard of a couple separating, but the wife still sleeps with the husband all the time to keep him faithful. It wouldn't even be a separation." "I haven't read the separation manual yet, Emily, but it sounds like I need to. What I do know is I won't let this separation of yours interfere with me getting my needs met, the way our marriage has been." "What is wrong with you, Alex? I just wanted a simple separation to see if we should stay married. In a matter of hours, you've turned into some kind of sex maniac," Emily yelled. "I have never, ever cheated on you, and now you are acting this way. I'm just finding myself now," I said ironically, hanging up the phone. "And right now, I'm finding myself with a woman who seems very willing to keep me satisfied. I've always been observant. It's in my nature, and it's helped me avoid surprises others typically miss." Emily, on the other hand, rarely noticed anything unless it was thrown in her face. She'd been talking frequently about a new dentist at the clinic, a man in the final stages of a divorce with his unfaithful wife. In Emily's opinion, he was a saint. But a few weeks ago, Emily abruptly stopped mentioning him and dodged any questions I asked. It seemed like the guy had vanished off the face of the earth. This coincided with news reports of increasing divorce rates due to financial pressures post-pandemic, making me wonder if that played a role in his situation. When Emily stopped mentioning Dr. Burns, my curiosity only increased to better understand. I arranged to have our calls monitored, her conversations recorded, and her emails forwarded to me. Additionally, I hired a private investigator to look into the situation more thoroughly. The evidence painted a clear picture. Dr. Burns, who was in the midst of his own messy divorce, had set his sights on her and was attempting to seduce her. It seemed this wasn't his first time. Similar behavior had caused problems at his previous clinic, with some former patients accusing him of unprofessional conduct. This man was a snake. Fortunately, Emily had resisted his advances to a certain extent. At least, she hadn't been willing to cheat on our marriage yet. However, Burns had begun insinuating that if we were separated, sleeping with him wouldn't be cheating. That's why my firm warning to Emily about not getting involved with anyone was vital. If she wanted to stay married to me, she needed to stay faithful. Rebecca, a colleague of mine, had only been working with me for a few months, but we quickly became close friends. A widow, she had recently relocated to the West Coast to be closer to family and knew about my marital issues with Emily. When I shared my plan to force Emily's hand, Rebecca didn't hesitate to offer her assistance, taking on the role of the other woman. By listening to Emily's conversations and reading her emails, I learned she planned to propose the trial separation idea on Friday. It was a simple matter for me to pack a couple of suitcases during my lunch break and move into Rebecca's apartment for the weekend. With 2 months left on her lease, we spent the weekend enjoying each other's company like there was no tomorrow. While I was prepared to observe Emily and leave her if any signs of her involvement with Burns surfaced, I wasn't going to be a pushover. I had always been a faithful husband and father to our 2 children, both of whom had graduated from nearby universities and had good jobs in neighboring states. If Emily wanted me back, she needed to present a compelling reason. I wasn't going to beg or grovel, and if we remained married, things would never go back to the way they were. I couldn't tolerate the sporadic love any longer. I was looking for a wife who cared, maybe even surprised me sometimes. The calm, passionless life we had been sliding into was irreversible. The doorbell rang just after I returned to my apartment after dropping Rebecca off at the airport. To my surprise, it was Emily, tears streaming down her face. I ushered her inside and sat her on the couch, waiting for her to compose herself. After a few minutes, she began to speak. "I've been so stupid," Emily began. "It probably won't surprise you that I'm going to tell you Dr. Burns has been pursuing me for the past few weeks. You always seem to know more about me than I do myself. He convinced me to ask for a temporary separation, so we could figure things out in our marriage. He said that if we were separated, it wouldn't technically be cheating, and that you might even appreciate me more if I decided to come back to you." She paused, wiping her eyes. "Things didn't go as planned. You were ready with packed suitcases, you had a place to go, and even someone to be with. I thought I had a brilliant plan. But you were one step ahead. When I called Friday night and heard that woman answer, practically confirming you were with her, it was like a punch to the gut. And then, when you called back, I realized what you had just done with her. It hurt, Alex. It hurt a lot. Emily took a deep breath, composing herself. I spent the entire weekend thinking about what you said. I slowly realized you were right. I was the one who asked for the separation, not you. I had a plan to spend a few nights with Ed Burns, and then everything would go back to normal, and you wouldn't even know. But you flipped the script. Suddenly, you were the one having the affair without guilt or remorse. If I had followed through with my plan, it would have destroyed our marriage. After hours of reflection, Emily confessed that she had realized the errors of her ways. She understood that I wasn't the fool she thought I would be, and my swift reaction had turned the tables on her. The recent news about influencer Andrew Tate's arrest for human trafficking further solidified her realization of how easily manipulation can occur. This morning I told Dr. Burns that he was wrong, Emily concluded. So, you just told him off, and you think I am going to forget about everything? I asked incredulously. I'm supposed to forget you were prepared to risk our marriage for some guy who just wanted to sleep with you. Emily, you are an attractive woman. Many men would give anything to be with you. Am I supposed to worry every time a man shows interest? Emily shook her head. No, Alex. But I wasn't the one who got rid of Burns this morning. When he arrived at work, the police were waiting for him. He was arrested. It turns out one of our patients accused him of sexually assaulting her while she was under anesthesia. Once the investigation started, other women came forward with similar accusations. He's in big trouble. That's the kind of man you were ready to risk everything for. I shook my head in disbelief. I'm not surprised. He seemed shady from the start. But you think just because he's out of the picture, I'm going to forget what you did? No, Alex, Emily said softly. I was just hoping you would keep your word. I have never lied to you, Emily. I always keep my word. What are you talking about? I asked, confused. You said I could come over a few nights a week, and you would sleep with me. Said it would keep you from looking for other women, Emily reminded me. I nodded, recalling our previous conversation. I did say something like that, but I also said things wouldn't be the same as before. You'd need to put in the effort, not just be there. I'm no longer interested in that, especially now that I've gotten a taste of what it's like when we are both fully engaged in each other's pleasure. Emily hesitated for a moment before speaking again. Maybe you could help me become more receptive. At that moment, I knew what decision I had made. Rebecca and I are probably flying back with no plans to return. I didn't want anyone else. Closing my eyes, I promise it. There will be no other women as long as you're my wife. Emily squealed with delight. I can't believe you're willing to give up that other woman for me. But I am so glad you did. I promise, you won't regret this decision. With that, Emily pulled out lip gloss, lubricant, and whipped cream from her purse, arranging them neatly on the table. Do you have any preferences on the order in which these things are used, darling? She asked, giving me a seductive smile. I'm ready to start right now if you want, she whispered, looking at me with a sparkle in her eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. Update at still packing. That evening, I felt a mix of relief and heartache. For years, I had been the steady rock of our marriage, always there for Emily and our children. Yet over time something had begun to erode our connection. The small rejections, the nights she preferred her phone or the latest news cycle to conversation with me, and the detachment she attributed to routine. It all gradually accumulated, forming a heavy burden. And then her request for a separation was the final straw. My cold reaction was perhaps more about my wariness than anything else, but I also wasn't ready to lose my wife. Alex's update: I was an idiot. I was a fool. I believed Dr. Burns. I thought a separation would help us, but I was so wrong. He really had me believing that a break would fix everything. Said we needed to step away from each other to understand what we truly wanted. But now I realize he just wanted to take advantage of the situation. When I called and heard that woman answer the phone, it was like something inside me snapped. I felt the sting of a choice I didn't even know about. I realized I was on the verge of losing the best man in my life over a whim. The tables had turned on me. I kept a straight face, sighed, shook my head, and said, Emily, you messed with our lives, and you didn't think there would be repercussions.